The Sportsocracy.
These guys are a f***ing disgrace.
Welcome back into the Sportsocracy on ESPN Asheville. The New York Football Giants. What do they need in this upcoming draft?
The fighting Brian Haynes.
Jeremy Green, what is the first need that they need?
Well, it's one that I'm not necessarily sure you can get in this draft. It's wide receiver. They have the greatest accumulation of threes that I think I have ever seen. Darren Waller is your one. There's no doubt. I mean, I don't think anybody would doubt that.
Mm-hmm.
That's tight end. It would be a really nice DeAndre Hopkins. That's the way I would go personally. So I just don't feel like you can address that because I don't necessarily want to throw a rookie at that. If I was going to do it, I would take an actual legitimate tight end and basically play Darren Waller as a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And then have Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean, I don't love that you lost Richie James, but you've got Isaiah Hodgins. And my question is just how many natural receivers are you going to carry on this roster? I think the biggest need that you could fill with the first-round pick is at corner because Cordell Flott weighs about 160 pounds. And if he's your 2 on the outside, I don't love your chances in a division with the guys that you have in this division.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the reasons I've had him taking a corner. It's been Deonte Banks a good number of times. It's been Emmanuel Forbes a time or two. I just feel like that makes the most sense. You asked me earlier, was there a player that could surprise you in the first round? The Giants are one of the teams I have circled as don't be surprised if they do something completely off the wall that just completely shocks you. Like take a linebacker here, which I do think that's a need. I don't think it's the most prevailing need.
So it could be like Jack Campbell.
That wouldn't shock me if you just fall in love with a guy. Because one of the things that makes it really hard to do mocks is when you have teams that are in positions where the guys on the board don't fit what they need.
Mm-hmm. And
that's really where the Giants are. You also mix in the uncertainty with Dexter Lawrence and the uncertainty with Saquon Barkley. All of that makes me nervous, but not enough that I feel the urge to replace one of those guys.
I was going to say, is there a thought that, I mean, what is the uncertainty with Saquon?
Well, that he won't sign the tag and that he has no intention of playing under the tag. He wants the long-term deal. I mean, all of the posturing that you hear, but I genuinely feel like that's going to get done.
I was going to say, when rubber meets the road, they'll get an extension done with him, or I'll play for $10 million.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is that they're not going to take like Bijan Robinson or anything like that. I could see it being an edge. I don't think it's your biggest need. I fully believe they're going to take the best corner on the board unless there is a huge run that goes right in front of them.
Mm-hmm. And it's quite possible picking at number 25.
It is because you got Baltimore, you got Minnesota, you got Jacksonville, Seattle if they went completely off their norm and took a corner in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of teams that could – I mean, you could see – I can't remember I think the Vegas line's 6.5 defensive backs in the first round. And you could easily see the over.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're going to get 3 in the top 12 definitively.
Yep.
There is no way that's not happening.
Yep.
And then you get into that second run. If you hit a Brian Branch, you hit the guys that I just mentioned, there could be a lot of guys off the board by the time the Giants come up. They're also a team that I wouldn't be shocked if they looked to move up.
To get after one of those no doubt corners?
Maybe. That could be what they're after. Could be one of those no doubt receivers.
Because they don't,
whether it's in Jigba or Quentin Johnston.
Right. I was going to say because they don't want to have to settle for Julius Brents. That was a new name I saw in the first round.
And I love him so much, and I know he's going to go early in day 2. But okay, at 17, somebody's been drinking the cough syrup a little bit harder than they were supposed to.
A little too much.
Somebody didn't use the cap to tell you how much you should take.
But at 25, that's where you find yourself in that realm of Deonte Banks or Emmanuel Forbes or Keely Ringo or Cam
Stop
Smith.
saying Keely Ringo. He's not in that tier. Way down there.
Way down there?
Third round.
Really?
Will be shocked if he goes in the first 63 selections.
Interesting. Okay.
That's how bad that's gotten.
Apparently, a lot of the industry's not caught up on that because I'm still seeing him in back end of the first round, top of the second round.
Yeah, those people are doing crimes. I can't tell you which crimes, but they're doing crimes.
Okay.
The next person that says something really nice about him will be the first that I've heard in quite some time. And I'll tell you, there's a name that keeps popping up. Lucas Van Ness. If somehow he fell down to them, they had him in for a top 30 visit. And that's one of the this kind of gets a little three-dimensional chess. That's one of the things that I start paying attention to when I start getting these full lists of the ones that they've had in. It's weird to me that they had Hendon Hooker in on a top 30 visit. Is that not just completely – but for why did you do that? You just did the deal with Daniel Jones. You're not taking Hendon Hooker where you're going to have to take him. Because you'd have to take him with that first-round pick. There is no shot of them doing that. But that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
That's a you only get 30 of these. And you waste one of them on a quarterback. I do this with every team.
Maybe they're thinking if he slips to them in the third round.
And there's
maybe.
well, that's at the rate we're going, that's not going to happen. But I mean, virtually everything that you see with them makes sense. It's receivers, it's corners. And there's a big, but why? And he starts seeing them interviewing or bringing in edge guys that are going to go in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And that just kind of tells me that the Giants are going to sit back, and this brain trust is not necessarily just going to shoehorn a need. They're going to take the best player. And there's a great merit to that. Some of the biggest draft mistakes I've ever seen, and I'll be honest with you, there's a potential for one with Brian Branch this year, is teams really need a guy at a specific position. And there's only one.
Mm-hmm.
And they either move up to get that guy or they take him above slot, and he just never lives up to that. I've always said, all right, I'm trying to think of a good example of this. D. Milner's the one that keeps jumping into my head, and that doesn't really – Sheldon Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
All right? He's bounced around the league. He was a top 15 pick. He was the Darrelle Revis pick. People in Jet fans have always said that was just a terrible pick, and he got arrested for speeding with a kid in the car, and he was never the same after that. No, he's been a good NFL player. He just wasn't a good NFL player for you. He probably should not have gone that high, and where you go really matters. So you catch a team like the Giants that are really casting a wide net here, and those teams become really unpredictable, and they're really hard to narrow into what they're thinking. But I feel like they have to come away from the 2023 NFL draft with a bigger receiver of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you go on the high side or you do take somebody like Jonathan Mingo. They are a team I've been told is interested in him. I feel like you got to get somebody on the interior of that line. I've long thought they are the drop dead spot on Osiris Torrance. He is not getting by them.
Yeah.
I know they really like John Michael Schmitz. I wouldn't be shocked if they try to take him there at 26. You need a corner, and then I'd like to get an edge and a linebacker at some point. It's a better roster than people think. They've drafted really well over the last few years.
Right.
Starting with an Andrew Thomas pick that we mocked openly, and, well, that has not gone our way.
Well, you mocked it.
You mocked it, too, when you realized they intended on him playing left tackle.
Well, I mean,
I do still have access to all these videos.
I'm wrong sometimes.
You were less wrong than me because I openly mocked it and went, "Are you out of your mind?"
But yeah, a guard would make a whole lot of sense in this scenario for the New York Giants. We shall see.
They're one of the great wild cards.
Yep. They have the number 25 overall pick in the draft. They've got one in every round except for the fifth, where they've got two. They got 3 in the 7th as well. You are in the Sportsocracy. This is ESPN Asheville 92.9 FM, 880 AM and 1400. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Carolina Panthers draft need.